Hello, Cancer, and welcome to Catalyst Energies. Welcome to your weekly astrology forecast. My name is Dee. Thank you for joining me. I'm so grateful that you're here. This is a report for Cancer Rising, Cancer Moon, and Cancer Sun in that order. You're going to get the most out of this report if you have a rising sign of Cancer. But of course, there will be nuggets here for everyone if you have strong Cancer in your chart. So we are going to be looking at the week of Friday the 10th through Saturday the 18th, which is a full moon in Gemini. So for Cancer, that means that we are going to be primarily looking at this 6th and 12th house axis for you. Not only is this going to be the axis of the full moon, but the 6th house is where the total solar eclipse happened for you, is in the 6th house, in terms of your habits, your routines, and your healing process. So we're all going through this process of purification in terms of meaning and understanding and cultural values that we need to be able to see clearly in order for us not to take that karma into the next cycle, even though the old cycle has finished in a lot of ways. And so this is going to be a process that is elongated and unfolds over the next couple of months because of the eclipse cycle. But this full moon is going to be a big reveal, a very big reveal for all of us about what in our thoughts and ideas and concepts and what we've learned and the empirical data that we have either taken in or outputted, right? The data in and of itself, and our ability to cognize there's going to be a big reveal within each of us, and certainly how we feel about those things and what needs to be released, right? What kind of unbearable pressure are we under in terms of old ideas that need to be released so that we can kind of cross this threshold and enter a new dimension of reality or a new cycle. So for Cancer people, it's going to be along this axis of surrender. 6th house is surrendering to the self, right? It's usually through crisis or personal challenge or a healing crisis that we really start to get ourselves on a schedule, on a habits, new routines, right? Healing process in general, the self-care, which is not exactly an easy position for Cancers because they tend to really be boss mode in their personal relationships, by the way, which of course is where Venus and Pluto just had their conjunction, is in the 7th house for Cancer. So this axis of surrendering to the self and then surrendering to the flow of all there is, to return to source. There is something very significant about there's going to be a closing of accounts and a karmic way for Cancer when this full moon is exact. And because the moon is your chart ruler, Cancer, this is going to be very, very potent for you and something that you will feel very intensely. But the good news is that there will be an unbearable karmic pressure that you will finally be able to release that will ultimately allow you to continue to grow and to discipline yourself within your own reality and in your own way, right? So either you're, like I said, healing process, instituting new habits. Perhaps you've just been very busy working on a daily basis and being of service to others and really finding your sustainment through that. And with Mars coming into your 6th house now, boy, you're going to get a big infusion in some ways of and a natural drive to overcome these crises, right? You're going to have this warrior energy start to give you the initiative to really get past or to overcome this crisis, like I said. So there's a strong will to transform yourself through either your work or your service or training and discipline that you're going to get, like I said, this really strong initiative from Mars coming into this realm. And illness can be really seen as a challenge to seek healing or even just a higher form of well-being. So Cancers, it's not exactly easy for Cancers to take care of themselves, but this is exactly where the energy is drawing you into. And ultimately what it's going to do is allow for you to let go of a very substantial karmic debt that has, I think, been holding you back for a long time. And if it wasn't for whatever personal crisis, healing crisis, or challenge that is being illuminated right now, and really thought about up until very recently with Mercury in also in Sagittarius, you will, if not for this, the karmic debt at a multidimensional level, at a quantum level, would not be able to be seen for what it is and released. So Cancers, that's the main theme here around the 6th and 12th house axis. Now, the sun was in a square not only to the moon, right, your chart ruler, over on Friday, the first quarter moon squaring the sun. It also was in conjunction with Neptune, which was also in a square to the sun. So the first real challenge around this, at the beginning of this second quarter, leading up to the full moon, is a very diffused sense of meaning. Now, to naturally have Pisces in your 9th house, I mean, the meaning is very spiritual, just in general, and artistic and imaginative and dreamy. And there's something very meaningful to you in terms of the fact that we are all one together. That's really what you realize in Pisces and the 12th house, is you go back to the source of all and realize that there's no separation, right? And so with Neptune in your 9th house, that's been here for years and will continue to be here for a few more years, it really allows you not only to make great dreams, right? These broad concepts that are even more broad and spiritual in nature for you, but they also allows you to dissolve and to diffuse these concepts or abstractions, which is really what we're working with in the realm of the 9th house, because we're talking about big picture ideas here. It allows you to, render them almost as all the way down to their base parts, and synthesize completely new concepts and abstractions. This is pretty incredible, because you as a person are able to hold all of, you are strong outer shell that allows for your inner life to be deep and very deep and very intuitive and sensitive, right? I mean, Cancer people are extremely sensitive. And it's because you have this shell around you in some ways. And so in terms of meaning with the 9th house and these big picture belief systems and collective values that you operate under, is the quality of we're all connected, and we're all connected emotionally and through our feeling and through our bonds with each other. It's just that when it comes to the overall picture, there is no separation for Cancers. So Neptune there has made that even more clear to you, and has on the one hand, I mean, the capacity for Cancers to really have synthesized completely different and new concepts while Neptune's been in the 9th house has been incredible, and a metamorphosis of lesser values into much greater values, right? The danger of Neptune in this placement can be like really extreme idealism and just kind of falling into the escapist trap of meaning. There's nothing behind it, because it's so diffused by and dissolved down by Neptune that it almost seems like there is nothing to hold on to, or any meaning that you can hold on to when it comes to your understanding. But ultimately, I think that what this has done, because Neptune is the ruler of Pisces for Cancer, has just allowed for a metamorphosis of your belief systems. Now, the moon meeting Neptune as well has made that, your chart ruler, you became very personally sensitive to what this is, and not just for yourself, but for the collective as a whole, and very sensitive to any collective force that's aiming at integration socially, whatever that is, relationships or any kind of communal or organizational coming together. So and really allows you to adapt to unfamiliar conditions, maybe new concepts, right? And so when the moon came and met Neptune at this point, it really, it's one thing to be able to synthesize different concepts, but boy, you had a very strong, sensitive, intuitive knowing of those new concepts and those symbols, even though they're kind of unfamiliar. The square that you were having with the sun in your 6th house of personal crisis is that you're really, kind of on your grind right now, and service and work and doing stuff, and service and work and doing stuff, and really finding your voice in that situation. And then with Mars coming into that area, you're going to get all of this really strong warrior energy along with it to really overcome these crises, right? But it's the change and the mutability and the sensitivity to a completely new set of concepts in terms of meaning and understanding that I think may have been making it a little bit harder to, stay fully focused on your grind right now. Now, like I said, Mars is going to allow you're going to get an infusion of energy, right? This initiation and this courage is going to come into this area, and you're going to be really focused on like, okay, I'm going to get to solving this problem, or, addressing this crisis. And a really strong will to transform yourself through these things, right? And of course, Mars will also come along and square Neptune when it gets to that same point in Sagittarius. So again, there will be another challenge to this when it comes to a completely new but unfamiliar set of belief systems coming online that I think really something strongly right into your intuitive awareness over the weekend. Now, Venus and Pluto came into a conjunction on Saturday. This is in your 7th house, Cancer. Who you are in relationships has been going through a slow but steady overhaul for years now because of Pluto coming into Capricorn. It's just now that Venus is involved, which is very much about our value and meaning and worth and all of those things in our relationships, our resources, and all kinds of resources, but essentially what is valuable and meaningful to us when it comes to who you are in your relationships, that is going through, like, something went sideways in terms of your interpersonal relationships, what is meaningful to you, seeing like the destruction in some ways, Cancer, of that particular, whatever type of interpersonal relationship, domestic, business, close friendships, right? And even any contractual commitment that you yourself make with something else is really bringing out the Capricorn nature in you, right? And so when you find that what you have valued about your role as basically kind of like the paternal provider of your relationships in general, you are the boss in your relationship, something very significant about that. How valuable is it for you to maintain that? What aspects of that type of relationship are being pulled away, and what specifically that's valuable and meaningful to you in terms of your security and your comfort, and the quality of the relationships in general. This is a big point with Venus in the 7th house, because she's normally this is kind of her area, right? Because she also rules Libra. And so sometimes it's way more focused on the relationship itself rather than the individuals in the relationship. And so I think that you're going to have to really ask yourself here, what is it that went through? Was it the quality of your relationships, or that went through some sort of massive overhaul and the beginning of a transformation process? Because it is the beginning. Venus is going to conjunct Pluto 2 more times, right? Because she's going to station retrograde, and then when she goes direct, it'll come back over Pluto. So this is, this is a very powerful opportunity to really establish the meaning of your relationship relationships and where you actually find the meaning within you in your relationships and the quality of them in general. And I think that this is probably, as opposed to the people in the relationship, it's the quality of the relationship that you find very valuable that is going through, something went sideways, right, in this realm for you. So Mercury has also moved into Capricorn, and this is important because not only are you going to start thinking very seriously about these issues and who am I in relationships, right, and realize, and having a very strong eagerness to mentally experience yourself through the human relationship, right? Like really kind of starting to question and to consider and to learn about yourself in relationship and learn about just life in general through your relationships. You're going to be really considering this very, very seriously. And it relates to Chiron because for Cancer people, the biggest, I think, setback here in terms of a trauma and an imposed wounding, that an imposed identity that we're all dealing with Chiron is very much in the house of your career and what you're here to contribute to. And so when the realm of understanding and meaning and big picture is so amorphous and so idealized and broad and in some ways completely diffused, there's a real it's really hard, I think, for Cancer people right now with Chiron in the 10th house to identify that their contribution truly is of the quality of expressing, of being yourself, just being yourself, which is very much Aries, right? The subjective experience. So being yourself and identifying that all of the potential of who you can be is encapsulated in your very identity and your nature, Cancer. If you aren't free to be that person, or you are still dealing with being a victim or a savior in some ways, this is going to keeps pulling you off of your focus, which is that you can contribute to society when you are completely free to be yourself. And you are not completely free to be yourself because I think there is a karmic debt, a very significant karmic debt that has been weighing on you for a long time that wants to be released. So when Mercury is now in your 7th house of interpersonal relationships and contracts, it's going to then square, as we're going to see here, it's going to square Chiron right at the full moon that is in Gemini. So, and will be direct at this point too. So what we're going to see here is, while you are thinking very maybe objectively, if you are learning and using your mind to learn through the quality of your relationships, you already know something about the quality of it, and something that you identified as valuable, but has very much been upended with Pluto and Venus together. And she is accepting this, right? Venus is in the crone phase in Capricorn. So she is wise and she is mature and she is accepting this last phase of her journey as the crone, right? She is much more willing and able and gracefully capable of meeting Pluto and being like, yes, I know what I need to release. And so it hasn't been easy, but I think that this is a much, especially in terms of the larger social institutions. It's just for Cancer people, it is the social institution and the structure of the relationship in and of itself that allows you to really know yourself in the relationship and to be kind of the boss. And so there are aspects about that are meant to be released with, and transformed. I mean, that's the big part of it. Transform our meaning, transform what the value is in our, interpersonal relationships. So Mercury is going to be thinking, you're going to be thinking about this, you're going to be considering it, using your mind to really collect the data, interface with the information, and really learn more from your relationships than you would from any other kind of study. It's just that the square to Chiron at this point, it really is going to depend on, and this is all of us too, but in terms of your interpersonal relationships, what bandwidth are you going to be tuned into in your thoughts? Is it going to be of what is falling away? Is it going to be on the false holographic matrix that is imposed upon us to keep us from noticing that anything's falling away or to distract our attention? Or is it going to be in tune to the universal current? And if it is, then this square to Chiron, as uncomfortable as it's going to be no matter what, because when you are in tune with the entire social order as a geometric fractal, right, that carries its own frequency and vibration, if you are in tune to that entire system, it is going to create a tension with the subjective ego, right, which is Aries being focused on its own potential, right? And so there's something here for Cancer about really making sure that the mind is dialed in to the frequency that has to do with universal alignment, planetary rhythm, like the natural law unfolding that will allow for Cancer people to really see their wounding and their trauma for what it actually is. And it'll be certainly shown to us in the external. And a lot of that's going to have to do, again, with where the mind is tuned into in terms of a frequency band. And that's a choice that we're all going to have. And we can either get tuned into, for Cancer, the aspects of relationship that is going to reinforce the trauma and the identity as a victim or the identity of as a savior. I think that's even more so in terms of Cancer, just knowing Cancer people and a career or mission. It's with Chiron as the wounded healer, being able to bypass entirely the healing of the self, in order to the healing of the self by focusing on other people, is one of the, is keeping you from actually aligning with you as the unadulterated you, right? And that's all you need to be, is you in terms of your mission. Because when a Cancer person is able to identify that their mission or their zenith of their destiny is just to embody the full potential of anything they can be, then there's no end, right? There's a vast space within in which to create. There's something that's pulling you out of alignment with that, and it has a lot to do with your relationships and who you are in your relationships. And this time with Mercury in a square to Chiron on the 18th, the same day as the full moon, is going to highlight, which frequency band you're allowing your mind to tune into when it comes to your relationships. It's going to show you quite a bit of where this trauma is for you. So with the full moon, the sun will be in conjunction with the galactic center, again in your 6th house, right? And the moon will be in Gemini, the full moon in Gemini. Just like I said before, this unbearable karmic pressure that really needs to be released. And it might have nothing to do with you, but it's going to be through the process of your own work on yourself that maybe has been brought about by some kind of crisis, but you are really finding yourself through this process. And now you got Mars here that's like, hey, I'm going to give you all this will and natural drive. And remember, Mars rules Aries. It rules your 10th house. And so there's a connection here with Chiron in terms of Mars and what it's doing over here for you in your 6th house. And so there are aspects about this realm that have not been working for Cancer. And I suspect it has to do with this consistent working and busybodiness in service to other people without really surrendering to the full quantum experience, because there's something there that absolutely needs to be released. And with Black Moon Lilith in the 12th house too, as well, there is a primal demand for this to surface, and it will, right? And if we listen and we are acknowledge this part of ourselves, this dark feminine part of ourselves, this primal urge for self-preservation and a demand to be acknowledged and heard, just like Lilith, then it's a power. And if we suppress it or we ignore it or we pretend it's not there because we're ashamed of it, it will still come out, and it will come out in a very toxic way. So Cancer people, considering that the moon is like your totem here, when it becomes full, you have a real opportunity here to let go of a burden that is probably not even in this lifetime, right? And is certainly not something that you could absolutely do just in the realm of your day-to-day activity. This is a spiritual, transcendental, quantum realm that is demanding a release from a pressure here. And there are aspects about this work in the 6th house that you are going to be illuminated by, that is timeless and that has been working and will continue to work, right? Not all of the meaning needs to be discarded in terms of how you've been living out your day-to-day experience. There are certain aspects that have been in use forever and will continue to be so because they're necessary and they're beautiful and they are like a bridge, right? And this is the galactic codes that are going to come through that, again, are timeless and are functional and continue to be functional because they are sturdy and they have integrity. So you'll really find your voice through this in the realm of like your service, your work, your training, whatever it is that you're doing on a daily basis. But this, in fact, will actually show you in the realm of the spirit and the soul and the quantum realm, or in your own Akash, what you need to release, Cancer. You have some serious soul work to do right now, and it's very connected, obviously, to what is going on in your relationships. But a lot of it, too, has to do with the way that you execute this personal reconstitution. And like I said, it happens every year. Cancer, when the sun comes into the 6th house for Cancer, you find yourself really engaged in like service work. And there's something wonderful about that. Of course, I mean, it's not a bad thing, but considering how everything else is sitting at the top of your chart, except for this, I mean, you do, it's not all about what you're doing in the day-to-day necessarily. It has to be, it's inseparable from how, we experience our return to source, right? Because it's in this realm that we really shore ourselves up, that we purify ourselves. And Cancer people, I feel like that often will bypass their own healing in when it comes to the 6th house by getting very busy. So if that is you and you're feeling that, I mean, then realize that there is a reason for all of it, and maybe to certainly let some things go in terms of this, but also know that your work is not for nothing. All right. And Mars here is going to give you a real an injection in some ways, right? Give you a lot of will to transform yourself. But ultimately, it's not going to be in this realm. It's going to be over here that the real release of the burden and the demand to be heard of the wounding, it's going to be in the spiritual realm. And I think that when you really acknowledge that, Cancer, it's going to be your mission and your destiny, and how that is impacted by your identity in your relationships is going to be a lot after the full moon, I think things will be a lot more clear about that. So Cancer, thank you so much for being here. I truly appreciate you for stopping by. So if you are interested in a personal reading or energy work to support your process through this time, you can find everything you need in the description box below. And you also can get a little bit more information at the end of this video. So if you're watching this on YouTube, the general astrology report that goes into much more detail about the transits themselves, that's going to be linked at the end of this video. And if you're on BitChute, you just got to scroll down and find it. So take care, Cancer. Thank you for being here, and I'll see you on the next video. Bye.